Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Down with the 90s. I'm Jerry Strauss, and folks, this time out, we are going to be talking to somebody that you've seen here, there, and pretty much everywhere, not just back in the 90s, but really ever since, an ever-present force in the world of Hollywood, in the world of television, movies. It's a face that you're sure to know. It's a voice you're sure to know. Her name is Molly Hagan, and she's here with us this week. Molly, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Pretty good?
You make me sound like I was back in pre-talkies.
No. No,
She's been around.
Well,
I'm like, not that much.
No. The 90s is the focus of the show, and unfortunately, I'm in a constant battle with the realization that it was a bit of a while ago.
It was a while ago. It is true. Just when I think it wasn't, it's like, oh my God, it's more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
At least Herman's head was.
It's funny because you hit a point where everything feels like it was 5 years ago. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely.
Mm-hmm. But you are not a product necessarily of the 90s exclusively. You've been involved in many things that people would recognize you from since then. So we could talk about that. But let's get to the beginning first, because we want to cover everything that people would recognize you from. But first, we want to see where it all started. And you, according to my research, you were born in Minneapolis, but you grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Is that correct? That's
right.
Okay. And what kind of a kid were you? What kind of a kid becomes what you eventually became? How'd you start out?
Loathed child. We kind of lived in the country in Fort Wayne, or just sort of outside of the city limits. There was a farm it was weird. There was a farm across the street, and there was a golf course behind us. And there weren't kids immediately in my neighborhood. You had to sort of walk down a busy country road to get to any neighborhoods. So I grew up with my brothers and sisters, but they were older than me. So I spent a lot of time, sort of playing by myself and the two sisters that were immediately older than me. I'm the last of 7 children. And so I grew up doing plays. My sister was the ringleader. She would write, and she'd make the music, and I'd be her partner in performing these plays for my immediate family. And my parents, I think, got a kick out of it. My older brothers and sisters were like, oh, my God. They just could barely bear it. But, I spent a lot of time outside. We had apple trees. We had a garden. I spent a lot of time outside.
So let me ask you, well, first of all, let me ask you, 7 kids, how many of you went into some sort of an entertainment or theatrical endeavor?
My brother went into voiceover. He's no longer doing it, but he started in sort of radio, actually, in Fort Wayne, and then he went into voiceover, and he had a really great career in San Francisco. And then he sort of retired from that. And one of my sisters is a singer-songwriter and also an actress, and she's out here in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So out of 7, 3 of us.
I guess what I was getting at is when you've got that many kids, and certainly it sounds like you guys got along and worked together and for, at least some of the time, was there like a constant sort of battle for
Yes.
attention?
Yes, that's why we do what we do. Yes,
exactly.
I knew when I went into acting. Even in high school, I was like, "There's one reason to do this: to get attention." I want attention, and then the older I got, I went, "Oh, this could be an art form. Oh, this could be more than just me getting attention." And then I sort of developed into something better than just needing attention. But I was pretty darn obnoxious.
That's true with a lot of. I mean, that's sort of what fuels a lot of people to get into your line of work, right?
I think so. If they're being honest, yes. I think it may turn into something else, but I think the first impetus is, I just needed attention. I needed to be heard. I would do anything to get it. So.
And that's what drove you to, you went to Northwestern University, right, and studied theater there?
Yeah, that's when I decided maybe I should be an artist. An actor artist. I thought, there's something more to this than just hamming it up. I went to Northwestern, and I studied with David Downs, who was a terrific acting teacher, and the thing that made Northwestern wasn't just the professors, but it really drew a lot of really talented people. So you were, your friends were really talented, and it just upped your game. And so I studied literature and theater, and it gave me a basis to start.
And at that point, did you have any sort of like a career goal where you might want to end up, whether it be stage, whether it be television or film? What were you thinking when you were in college?
Well, I remember when we graduated, there was this fantastic teacher. She wasn't my teacher. She taught creative dramatics children. She taught teachers of children, for creative dramatics for children. And she was a magnificent woman, and we had this graduation party, and she went around the room. She goes, all right, I want to hear your, she had a big smoker voice. She goes, I want to hear your 5-year goals. And she went, and all of us just looked at her like, what? Like, goals? I had no goals. I had no goal. None. Zero. I had no trajectory. I had no plan. I had no vision. None of it.
Did you feel like it was something that you could do beyond college, or were you just not even sure at that point?
Oh, I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, well, I think I should just do theater, or I think I should move out to Los Angeles. Everything sort of happened by happenstance. It was not any clear goal of mine. I definitely knew I wanted to act for a living. I just didn't have any specific, idea at all. And I knew. I thought I only wanted to do theater, maybe, but then I realized it was very tough to make a living only doing theater, especially in Chicago. And then I knew growing up that TV really was a lifeline for me, especially in hard times. My favorite shows were Mary Tyler Moore and oh my God, what's his name? He's a funny comedian. He had another show. He did a thing with phones.
With phones?
Phones. That was his first thing.
Newhart?
Yes. Bob Newhart. My two favorite shows were Bob Newhart and Mary Tyler Moore. And I think part of me really wanted to do that kind of thing.
Was that really your inclination from the beginning? Because, obviously you ended up doing a lot of comedy. Was that your preference to be in those kinds of roles?
I think I probably thought I was going to be a Shakespearean actress. I probably thought but again, I didn't understand that there is more money and you can actually sort of make a living. And I know there are people who are theater actors and they do make their living, but it is easier to make a living doing TV and film. And only when I got out to Los Angeles did I went, oh no, this is what I should really be doing. I love it.
So you pretty much just took off to LA. Was that like right after graduation you decided just to move out there?
No, I was doing theater in Chicago, and I had this wonderful agent. Her name is Joan Ellis, and Joan got me from a play that I was doing, and then Joan wanted to move out to Los Angeles to see if she could carry her business there. So her partner stayed in Chicago. She went out to Los Angeles, and I followed her for one summer to see if it was going to work out. And I went, oh my God, there's so many more opportunities in Los Angeles. So I visited for like a month or 2 months in 1984, I think it was, or 85. No, 84 because it was the Olympics. I visited in the summer in 84, and then I knew I was going to be moving back. So I think in the fall of '84, I moved to Los Angeles for good.
Okay. And at that point, were you already plugged into opportunities to work, or did it take any length of time to find something to do?
I was really lucky. One, I already had an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Two, a friend lent me. No, that was in the summer. I already had an agent, and I had a ride out. I drove a car. They were called driveaways. You drove someone else's car.
Okay.
And I had a place to stay. And
did you steal a car?
No. No, they're called quote unquote drive away. No, yeah, I know. It sounds like a stolen car. No, you could drive someone else's car. Like if someone was moving, there was a company that you could sign underneath, and you would drive that person's vehicle. If someone was moving to Los Angeles, taking a plane, you would take their car for them.
Oh, okay.
It sounds disastrous. I would never do it, and I would never entrust me with some. I mean, if they only knew what kind of driver I was. And I had like $300, and I moved out to Los Angeles. And I think within 2 weeks, I booked a movie called Code of Silence.
Wow,
I was really lucky.
Yeah, and I mean, just from the initial part of the agent, because just from this show alone, I've heard so many stories of looking for that first gig and it taking so much longer than you think, and then looking for representation. You basically moved. Your agent moved out there not for you, but it was pretty lucky timing.
It was super lucky. So lucky. Lucky.
So, Code of Silence was a movie that you did with Chuck Norris. Mm-hmm. So, before anything else, we've got to talk about that. Chuck, obviously, his iconic status has it's multiplied over the years since then. How was Chuck? Did you get to work a lot with him directly?
Yeah, and he was the fastest person I'd ever seen. Like, as a joke, I went to hit him, like slap him or something, or, whatever, on the shoulder or something like that. And he moved so fast to block it. I mean, he didn't hurt me. I mean, he moved so, I'd never seen anyone move that fast before. And I have a funny story about, I don't know if I should tell this or not, but.
Well, now you have to. There's no turning back.
So it was my first job, really, and I didn't know. I was used to working with, my colleagues in college, and we would work on things together, and I didn't know that I don't know. I just didn't know the protocol, how to do stuff. So you're going to have to bleep about what I'm about to say. But
no, it's cool.
Right? All right. So we're working on a scene, and we're working with Andy Davis, the director, and Chuck was like, well, I don't know if I should hug her or not. And I went, oh, God, because I'm supposed to cry or something. I just found out my parents are dead, something like that. I can't remember. And I went, oh, my God, if you don't hug me, you'd be an asshole. And so the rehearsal ended, and I went back to my trailer, and I thought everything was fine, and they were lighting, and then all of a sudden I get a knock on the door, and it's Andy Davis. He goes, yeah, you need to come and apologize to Mr. Norris. And I went,
are you serious?
And he goes, no, you called him an asshole. I went, what? Oh, no. I would call him, if he didn't, he'd be an asshole. Oh, that's an answer. And I was like, oh, he doesn't understand. Oh, well, anyway, I went and apologized. It went downhill from there.
Wow. That's amazing.
But it's because I'm sure I was a little too something.
Yeah,
but it gets worse. So then later on, like years later, I think, maybe I should, reach out to him or something like that. I was in an acting class that you're supposed to reach out to people you'd worked with before. So I went, you know what, I'm going to tell him congratulations on Walker, Texas Ranger. That's what it's called, right?
So this was like into the 90s now.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's the 90s. So that's what the show was called, right? Walker, Texas Ranger?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I write him a congratulations letter congratulating him on Texas Walker Ranger. Huge, not a huge letter, but, just, congratulations, blah, 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 I'm happy to see you doing well, blah, blah, blah. Congratulations on Texas Walker Ranger. And I went, I'm just burying myself. I didn't find out I was wrong until like a few months later, and I saw a promo on TV and I went, gee, that doesn't look right. They got the name of that wrong.
So what were the ramifications?
Oh, no. I got the name of it wrong. Oh, God. So anyway, that was my attempt at making amends with Mr. Norris.
So he didn't give you a call? He didn't?
No. God, no. I got the name of his show wrong? I mean, come on. I'm an idiot.
I can't believe that if there's anyone you would think might have some thick skin, to not get their feelings hurt from that initial comment. Chuck Norris, come on. But I was 23 or 24 years old, talking like I knew. I think it was more than me saying asshole. I think it was just the whole sort of like, hey, we're in this together. We're comrades. It's like, they're not comrades. I'm 23 years old or 4 years old. I'm just out of college. I don't know anything. I mean, come on. I think now, I don't know. I can see it from his point of view. I was an idiot. Do you think that at that point, Chuck had kind of an ego about him, about how he's approached and talked to by people?
Well, he seemed like a completely normal guy. I think it was the first sort of film he had to kind of act. Because all the other stuff was way more
just action,
martial arts driven, and Code of Silence, he had to act.
So the pressure was on.
Yeah, it's different.
Gotcha. And it's funny because one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, obviously you'd been around Chuck. I wasn't sure if you'd been around a lot of other, notable action stars over the course of your career. There's been a lot that's come out over the last few days about the filming of a movie called The Expendables 3, which is these movies, this collection of all these action heroes, and like Sylvester Stallone came out and talked about Bruce Willis and how he's got this huge ego because he wanted too much money for the movie. There's all this like infighting between these guys now. So it makes you wonder like who falls on what side of the line of, who's the nice guy, who's not. And my uneducated guess was that out of everyone, Chuck Norris seemed like he would be the total nice guy that
Oh, he was. I didn't find out that he was bothered by this till years later, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, no, he was completely nice to me. I was stunned that years later, apparently he was still telling the story. But, no, he's super normal guy. He was super nice to me. He couldn't have been nicer. And then I turn around and call him an asshole. So, I mean, no, he was normal as the day is long.
Okay.
Super nice.
We'll lay off Chuck then.
Yeah, no, and I mean it. I mean, I'm not making it up. No, he was super. That's why I thought I could, pal around with him because he was so nice and he was so normal.
Okay. Thumbs up to you, Chuck, if you're listening. Your reputation has been restored over the course of the last 5 minutes.
And also, his brother did the stunts, and it was a really safe set. It was a really safe. Well, I mean, I think sometimes these things get out of control. It was a super safe set. I mean, the stunts and everything, it was just really, because I think some of that stuff can be really dangerous, and it wasn't.
Did you have to get involved in any part of that?
No, I mean, I had to hang from a hook or something like that, but it was...
That's just that you do that anyway. That's your first day.
Anyway. I mean, that was no big deal. I think I had to hang from a hook or something, and they made it really, comfortable for me, and...
Nice. Yeah. I'm glad you had a wonderfully comfortable experience on Code of Silence with Chuck Norris.
It was really fun. Oh, God, and I got to work with Dennis Farina, God bless the rest of his soul. He was hilariously wonderful.
Yeah, he just passed away recently, was that?
Yes, recently, I think a couple weeks ago or a week ago or...
Oh, boy.
Not long ago.
So from there, you moved on. Was your next film Some Kind of Wonderful?
Maybe. Maybe.
It was pretty close as we're moving through the 80s now, and that's certainly one that I think a lot of people would remember you if they saw your face and they'd be like, oh, yes, she was her.
Yeah, especially if you're a woman about 35 to 45 years old. That would be the movie.
Oh, were only women supposed to watch that? Nobody
No,
told me.
I'm just saying, if a woman comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, I know you," and I'm like, "No, you don't, but I bet you saw this movie." And it's because I don't think men are the first to say some kind of wonderful. It really inspired me. There was a tomboy in it, and then the girl from the wrong side of the tracks. That it's really geared for.
It's
girls.
A chick flick.
Yeah,
I gotcha. That's okay, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I've seen it. So. Oh,
but great actors in it. Elias Koteas is in it. I mean, there's some really great actors in that movie.
Yeah, it's a movie that I'm actually surprised I don't see just on television more often, because it felt like something that would just be prevalent forever, and it's still out there, but I'd like to see more of it for a new generation. But
for a new generation.
So you're doing films, and then around that period or shortly thereafter, you start getting involved in television stuff as well. Was that a conscious thing, or were you just, fielding all offers, so to speak?
I don't know anyone who makes conscious choices out here unless they're famous. Unless you're already in, then you can make choices. I mean, everyone's going for everything. I'm auditioning for commercials. I'm auditioning for TV. I'm auditioning for film. I'm, anything, any job that breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was easier to get a job in TV than in film.
Okay. So that stuff just sort of came along, and was it in the beginning? I see a slew of different shows that you did one shots for. You played, on this episode or that episode. Is that the majority of the things that came up for you in the beginning? Was just a lot of guest appearances?
Yeah, and then I did a number of pilots that never went anywhere. That was the other way to make money, is that there were a lot of pilots made back in the day, and a lot of them didn't, get picked up. But
did you know
money.
A lot of the time? Did you know that it was just going to be a pilot and never going to move past it, or was there?
No, I'm always like, oh my God, this is so going to go. And then, no, nothing. No, I have no sense of anything.
Well, it says that you did a show that I've actually personally not heard of called Nut House for a 6-week run. What was Nut House?
The Nut House was a show. This was after Sledgehammer. Alan Spencer made a show called Sledgehammer, and after Sledgehammer was done, he developed this show along the lines of Mel Brooks' thing, and Mel Brooks was attached to it as well as a producer. And Alan wrote this really funny, shticky, physical shticky thing about this hotel that was suffering in New York, run by Mrs. Nutt. And the people in it were Cloris Leachman, Harvey Korman, Greg Itzen, and it was pretty funny. It was actually, in retrospect, looking at it, it was written, I think, funnier than we pulled it off.
That's interesting.
But Harvey was hilarious. Harvey and Cloris were hilarious, but I think it's really hard to do physical comedy on TV. I don't think it necessarily translates. And the scripts are really funny. And they're, and it was super fun. I mean, it was super fun.
That's just
McNamara was in it, and I'm going up on something. He was a brilliant actor. He is a brilliant actor, and I'm just not remembering his name right now.
Chuck
but
Norris?
Yeah, it was really, 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 really fun.
That's great.
The most fun I ever had. I never wanted to go home, and there were really long days. The poor crew. It was a single camera comedy, which there weren't a lot of them at that time, and so they took time shooting everything, and everyone else was exhausted, and I couldn't get enough of it.
was a lot of, as usual for you, a lot of hope that it would continue, and I'd imagine a lot of disappointment that it did not.
Oh, yeah, we found out shooting, I think, episode number 10 or something. Like, it's like we went to lunch, we came back, and we were canceled.
Wow.
It was
just
horrible.
Happened.
Oh, Mark Blankfield. Mark Blankfield is so funny. He's such a great actor. Anyway, so there were about like six regulars, and everyone was funny and had their own supreme talents in it. But anyway, yeah, it was canceled mid episode. It was horrible.
That's insane. Is that typical? Like, is it just like one phone call and that's it, and the news just spreads through really? I've
heard other people have said stuff like that, but sometimes you're on a hiatus and then you find out, or you're done with the 13 and you find out. But we didn't even finish the first 13. Yeah, that was a bad day.
Luckily, you had a lot of good days to come, and one of them came strangely enough, and obviously this is something we're going to talk about. Herman's Head. Now, Herman's Head is one of those shows, from my memory, that all I can see here, it lasted from, I believe, 1991 to 1994. But it's not necessarily a show that is talked about enough today that a lot of people specifically remember watching today. I remember watching it. I remember a lot about the show. But just such an odd premise for a show, which was sort of the MO for everything that was on Fox at that point.
Right. They were really trying to... Well, they were the fourth network, and they were trying to make some sort of mark. So they were, as far as TV can be avant-garde. They were sort of they were out there.
They lived outside the box, and I'd have to imagine that between some of the stuff that didn't last very long, some of the stuff that maybe went to pilot for Fox and never made it past, there were probably as many really crazily bad ideas as there were crazily good ideas.
Yeah.
And I know you said that, basically you were the mindset of trying to just get work first and foremost. But when you first heard of this Herman's Head concept and you first auditioned and began to get involved, what was your opinion of this potential show?
Well, I thought it was... I think I probably at that time thought of myself as an intellectual, which is hilariously funny because I'm not that smart. But when I first read it, I was like, "Oh my God, this is so Jungian." I mean, he's got all these different. I thought it was a real opportunity to explore archetypal, personalities that we all have within us. And I thought it was incredibly interesting, and I thought it was really funny, and I still think it's really funny, and I still think it's really interesting, and I think one of the reasons why no one knows about it is because it never went into syndication, which is a sad thing. But other things at that time did, and we did enough episodes that we could have gone into syndication, but it never happened, so people don't know about it. But I thought it was genius. I thought it was genius, and I really wanted to be in the show. I read the pilot, and I was like, I really want to be in it. And so I auditioned, and I auditioned, and I went in as Billy Burke from, Billy Burke was an actress in the 30s, and she played Glinda, the Good Witch, from The Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. So I went in basically as Glinda, the Good Witch, to play Angel, the sensitive side of Herman. So I went in with this voice, and I did a really good imitation of her, and I went in, and they were like, and they kind of laughed, and they just weren't having it at all. And I went, okay, yeah, I can do something. I didn't say at that time, but I told my agent, I said, get me back in. I don't have to do the funny voice. I don't have to do that. Get me back in. I didn't know they wanted real. I thought they wanted character. I wanted blah, blah. And luckily, my agent also represented Billy Ragsdale. and they already cast Billy. So my agents had some sort of leverage. So I got back in. And then they tested me. And I remember waiting to test, and in the room outside waiting was Yardley Smith. And I heard Yardley talk. And I just went, shit, oh my God, she's going to get it. She told me up for my role, and she's totally going to get it. And they said they didn't want that. And I went, oh, that's her voice. Okay, well, whatever, I'm not going to get it. I mean, that's real, and I'm not going to get it. And then I found she wasn't auditioning for my role, and I was so grateful. I was so grateful. And then I got it, and I was really happy.
Do you consider that your signature role? Because that's how maybe because I was a fan of the show, but that's like when I think of your work, that's in my mind like the character that embodies who you are. That's everything else in my mind is almost like playing against type because you were so distinct on that show.
Every time I play a bitch, people would say that would be my signature role because
really?
That's what I'm most like. I have aspects that are really, really bitchy about me and snobby, and then I have aspects that are very sympathetic and caring, I'm both those things, really. If I feel I'm being injured, I'll turn into, a cold, calculating, manipulative person, and then another part of me is very, very compassionate and empathetic.
You're sort of freaking me out a little right now.
I really think it depends on, what you've seen of what I've done, because there are some things that people know me from, like Ringmaster or something, and they think they don't think I'm like that, but they're surprised that I'm not like that. That I'm not poor white trash.
I think that's a compliment to you.
I think it is a compliment to me.
I just want to clarify for people who have been listening to us talking about Herman's Head but have not actually had a chance to see the show. The concept of the show is basically following the life of this guy named Herman who works in this office, and it's a workplace sort of comedy, but it's also about somewhat about his personal life. And the gimmick is that we get to see 4 distinct personalities played by actors that embody what goes on inside his head. We get a peek inside his head, and we are talking to Molly Hagan right now, who is one of those 4. And was your character name actually Angel?
My character's name was Angel. And the idea, was anytime Herman had some sort of dilemma, you'd cut to inside of his brain, where these 4 characters would argue with each other about what course of action Herman should take.
Mm-hmm. And
except
okay,
Herman was
so you were always the voice of reason or of morality, so to speak.
Yeah, compassion, morality, sensitivity. I guess I was his sensitivity. You
were his feminine side.
That's right.
And I don't remember the names of any of the other actors, unfortunately, but I know there was an intellectual.
That's Stephen Kempsey.
Okay. There was that sort of brutish, kind of slovenly male side of him.
Kenny Campbell.
Okay. And who was the 4th one?
He was anxiety. He was the wimp, and his name is Rick Lawless.
Okay. And so, there was always this debate going on, and it was almost like the B plot of the show often was what was actually going on in the head and the interaction of these personalities with each other that affected what happened to Herman in the main plot. It was, and it's interesting because so much is said about today's media landscape and the content and how internet programming has sort of freed people to do all these weird and unorthodox things. But as far as actual television, I'm not sure a show like this could find a place on TV right now.
You don't think so?
I don't know if anybody would. It's really all about sticking to that safe formula on television these days of reality shows, and on cable they seem to want to try different things, but that seems to be more in the drama genre. It's been a long time since I've seen a sitcom as out there as Herman's Head.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking of web therapy, which is so funny. I mean, Lisa Kudrow's stuff after Friends, it's been pretty funny and out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the show that she had where she was some sort of a TV star.
The Comeback?
Yes. That was a great show, too, actually.
Just a killer. It was a killer. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think there's some funny stuff out there that is in some ways way out there. I mean, Herman's Head, even though the premise was sort of out there, it was still sort of formulaic in terms of it was a Whit Thomas show. It was, 4 cameras. There was a familiarity, at least with how it was presented, that, wasn't particularly out there.
Yeah, and it definitely worked in those standard sitcom, like it hit all the right tones, and you still got to know the characters, you still got to like and enjoy following the lives of the characters. And it should be noted that you talked about Yardley Smith, who of course is the voice of Lisa Simpson. That I believe, did that precede her working on The Simpsons? Was that before The Simpsons?
Hank Azaria also was on The Simpsons and was in Herman's Head. So Hank and Yardley were already doing The Simpsons before Herman's Head. And so they would, our table reads were like on Tuesday or Monday, I don't know when that was. And they were never there for the table reads because they were doing The Simpsons at that time. And then right after they got done recording, they would come to work for us or with us.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing time between for the emergence
super
of those
friggin' talented people, really talented.
And your show had their faces, so that was something.
Yeah, we got their faces. Yeah.
So Herman's Head runs its course. What was the feeling at the end of Herman's Head? Did you feel like you'd done all you could do there, or was there disappointment in the ending of that?
I think there was a disappointment in the ending of it, but I love all these guys. They know how much I like them, but at the time I was really done being around a bunch of men. Because I didn't get to interact with Jane and Yardley at all. Rarely. So most of my time was with, Kenny and Peter and Rick. And after a while, I was like, I used to think men and women were exactly the same until this show. And I went, okay, you know what? I'm done. I think I need to be around someone. So even though I was disappointed, I was kind of happy. I was way more disappointed the following year that we weren't still going. And they tried to keep it going by doing Herman gets a girlfriend, so you also go inside Herman's girlfriend's head too. It didn't work. It didn't work. A woman had taken over Fox, and she thought Herman's Head was too sexist. So then they tried to make it more female friendly, and it didn't work.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
So Herman's Head does come to an end. You are released from your male prison.
Yeah.
And so what is your first course of action at that point? Is it just go right back out there, or did you have a...
Yes, immediately. Immediately. I immediately auditioned for Friends.
Okay.
Because they had to recast Jennifer, because Jennifer was doing another show, and they thought it was going to continue. But Jennifer Aniston was initially in Friends, and they had to recast it, and so I went in for that. It did not particularly do very well, and then her show did not go, so she got to be in Friends. And wow, what a different show if she had not been in that.
That would have been interesting. It's
God, she killed me. She just ruined me when I watched that show. That was my favorite show. I loved Friends. Loved it.
But how long did it take you to be able to watch it without throwing things at you?
I loved it immediately.
Okay.
I didn't feel bad at all because I wasn't really right. I didn't land the laughs. I wasn't right for that role, and I knew it. I didn't walk in and go, oh my God, I totally get this one. I wasn't really right, and I wouldn't have gelled with the people in the way that those people gelled. So, in that particular instance, I had no problem watching it right away.
And you made your way back there later on for one episode.
Yeah, eventually it lasted long enough. They ran out of other actors, so I got hired. Yeah. The show lasts long enough, I generally can get on it.
Hey, it's all about the waiting game sometimes.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, you got to make appearances on a lot of staples of the time. Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. I'm not a Trekkie, so I don't know much about that world. What did you play on Star Trek?
There was a new race of people. They weren't new, but they were new to Deep Space Nine, it was a new race or new, race. I don't know, different kind of alien, and they were called the Vorta, and they were being introduced on Deep Space Nine, and they had, I can't remember what their capacity was, but I was the first Vorta. I had I could do stuff with my eyes. I could do stuff with my eyes. And they were going to have me back, but I was testing for a show at the same time they needed me, and I had to turn it down, and I did not get that other show, and that was a big drag for me. That was a big drag because I am a Star Trek fan. So that I didn't get to go back, I sucked. I mean, it sucked because I also didn't get that other job. So
yeah, that did not work out.
But I got to wear prosthetics, and I had a power, and the set was really fun, and it was good.
Do you get a lot of recognition to this day from hardcore Trekkies, being that you were part of that lore?
I've gotten fan mail that they wanted signatures and stuff like that, but I don't think out in the world people go, oh my God, it's the first Vorta. I don't think so. And I used to go to
or two. Go to Comic-Con, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. But no, I don't think so, because I've been to Star Trek conventions, not as a actor, as I love Star Trek.
Wow.
And, yeah. Well, now they're not Star Trek conventions anymore. Now it's more, there's Comic-Con, and now it's more high. It's not so specific. I don't think they really have Star Trek conventions anymore. And I was never recognized. I was just yeah.
Now geekdom is cool, so now you can freely attend any of these things, and maybe.
Yeah, it was not cool when I went. Believe me, because it's like 15 years now or something. I mean, it was a long time ago, and it wasn't cool.
No.
I mean, I thought it was cool because I love Star Trek, but it wasn't cool.
Well, it's a whole new world now, Molly. Get out there.
No, now everything's that stuff's so popular. It's crowds. I don't like crowds, so I can't imagine going to Comic-Con. I can't imagine weathering that storm of human.
And it's got to be even worse when you're actually a guest at Comic-Con if people do start.
No, I think it's probably better. No, you get let in. You got people around you. No, I'm sure it's better.
Well, I don't know, but then you hear these stories of these people who are guests there, and then they try to break away, and they put on a mask to disguise themselves just so they can walk around.
That's
true?
Just walk. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Just to get away from it all for a bit and walk like a normal person. But another show that you appeared on that probably doesn't have a convention of its own, Murder, She Wrote. I'd be very scared to go to that convention.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. My best friend has a car. Oh God, what do you call them? So menopausal. License plate. His license plate, he's my age. His license plate says, I'd rather be watching Murder, She Wrote.
Wow.
He loves Murder, She Wrote.
I'm speechless. I've never heard of. To me, that's a chick show. Like, I've never thought about.
Can I tell you now who that person is?
Sure.
John Logan. Do you know who John Logan is?
No, but I'm
He's a writer.
gonna look it up as soon as.
He's a writer. He wrote Gladiator. He wrote Hugo Cabret. He wrote what's the last big thing he wrote? Oh, he wrote the last wrote the last Bond movie.
Really?
Oh no, he's a wonderful writer, and he does very, very well. And his sticker says, "I'd rather be watching Murder, She Wrote."
So there could be elements of old Murder, She Wrote shows that have trickled their way.
Winding up, and yeah, he's got a new Showtime show called Penny Dreadful that'll premiere. I think I don't know when it's premiering, but anyway, yeah, he'll show up.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are breaking all kinds of insider news for us.
I know. I think he talks about it. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't care if I say something.
How was the experience of being on that show?
Oh my God, she's the best.
First of all, that's the opposite of what I've heard. That's great.
From an actor?
No.
An actor said something about her?
No, I don't know any real people. I'm just talking about people who I've heard things from who don't actually know anything. But that's where I get all my information.
Oh no, she loves actors and will bend over backwards to help an actor. I did a made-for-TV movie with her. I did 2 Murder, She Wrote. Angela Lansbury is like the greatest actress of all time, and she loves actors and bends over back. She's amazing. She's amazing. Now, I don't know what she's like with the crew or anything like that, but for other actors, and she's helped other actors, and she would employ actors who hadn't been acting for a while, but they needed to in order to get their insurance, and she'd, oh no, she's awesome. She's an awesome woman, and she was super helpful to me. I'll tell a story of this. Well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. I won't, because I thought it was really nice. I'm going to tell it. So I was doing this made-for-TV movie with her, and I had to play her daughter. And there was a scene. It was a real crying scene, and it's the medium shot. It's the what is it called? God, it's the master. It's the master shot, and I have no problem crying. And we move in. It's the medium shot, and I have no problem. And then it comes to the close-up, and I completely dry up. I dry up because I'm nervous. And she's right there for me. So the camera's on me, and she's helping me on the other side. She's weeping, she's crying, she's going through the whole thing. She was magnificent. And I sucked. And so during lunch, I knocked on her trailer, and I said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" She goes, "Yeah." And I came and I said, "How are you able to do that over and over again? What are you?" And she said, "Molly, I thought this was the kindest thing anyone ever said." She goes, "The older you get, the more you have to cry about." and that sounds funny, but it was what it means is like when you get, the older you get, you have more things that happen to you, and you're more human. There's more humanity. There's tragedy that happens. I first of all, she let me off the hook. She basically said I didn't suck because I'm not old enough to, you know what I mean? It was an incredibly generous thing for her to say. It was great. Generous, and it gave me hope in the future as an actor. And now at 52, she's right. She's absolutely right. There's a lot of things that happen in my life, and it's much easier to go to those places than when I was younger. But I love her. I mean, I love Angela Lansbury.
That's great. I will look at Murder, She Wrote in a whole new light from now on.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm seeing just a slew of different things that you got involved in. And one that I think a lot of people would also remember you from would be your turn as a nun on Seinfeld.
Right, yeah.
And now that's a show that you can't get away from. That is still all over TV all the time and will be forever.
That's how great that show was.
Yeah, it was amazing, and you had a memorable turn, as I said. You were a nun. Kramer almost converted you, I believe.
Yes. No, I almost converted him. Oh no, he almost converted me. No, I left. Didn't I leave the nunnery?
I think
Didn't
you were.
I leave?
Did he? Shoot, now I can't remember. I looked it up just enough to remind myself that he was.
Oh no, it's George. George was going to convert. George was converting to be with that girl.
With Susan?
And I forget how Kramer gets involved. But Kramer is, like, revered. Like, he has the Kavorka. I mean, oh, my God. I don't remember. I just remember Kavorka. I remember the Kavorka and my habit.
Well, obviously, no matter what, you got to play against Michael Richards. What was your experience like on that set? Was it more of a loose sort of improvisational sort of feel, or was it as tightly scripted as other comedies that you've worked on?
There wasn't improv. It was tightly scripted, but within that script, there was you couldn't play with the words, but you could play with what was going on. Like Jason Alexander had to walk down the aisle. It's his conversion. He's walking down the aisle. And they did like 10 different versions of it. Each one was funnier than the other. Now, there's no words. He's just walking down the aisle. And he did about, oh, God, he was so fun. I was in tears. So he did a lot of different things walking down the aisle, and he had free reign. And each one was funnier than the other, and then they just had to pick one for the actual show. Mm-hmm. So there was freedom in the play of it, but I think the lines were, you wanted to get the lines right because it was so brilliant. I mean, and so Kramer would come up with different stuff, but he wasn't coming up with different lines. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Just different ways to pull it off.
And he's so physical. I mean, he's such a physical actor that, you know, he would come up with all kinds of different stuff. And then that was the play. That was the fun.
Was that, was being a part of that episode and being a part of that show, was there sort of a feeling, did you sort of have a feeling that you were now on something that was in a bit of a different level as far as maybe staying power and how it was being regarded? You know, just in general, in the world of comedies, I mean, it's royalty, basically. Did it feel like that at the time?
Well, it was certainly good. I mean, I knew it was good, but I think I've been part of things that are good that no one else liked. I knew it was good. It just so happened that America knew it was good, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I feel. I mean, and Friends, too. I mean, Friends is really good. It just happened that America thought it was good, too. It's America got it right.
Yeah, and for both of those shows, you were on at points a little bit later in the runs where I'd imagine there was probably some awareness that these are huge hits. I mean, it was they were both off and running when you got there, so that must have been pretty exciting just to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting.
Awesome.
Definitely.
So many other things you've done since then, and I don't want to, you know, keep you here forever. But certainly you've been busy and you've been visible for a long time in a good way. I'm not trying to age you or anything like that.
In a good way.
I know. It's a fine line here, but yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing just the body of work that you've amassed. And I want to talk about something real quick, and we had connected months ago when I was first looking to try and get you here as a guest. And one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about at that time was your devotion to yoga. And you were at that point were involved in, I think you had a studio, and I just recently preparing for this interview found out that you had made a change there and moved away from that. You had written a blog on it and gone public with just, the decision to move away from that. Just talk about what yoga has, the part it's played in your life and, where you are now as in relation to the endeavors that you were working on for a while.
Well, I've been studying with a particular teacher since 87 or 89, and she radically helped me physically. And through that, I went, I think I want to learn how to teach this. So I started to study like in 1996 to teach, and I didn't really think about teaching as much as helping my family. Like I'd love to be able to offer this to them. And then as time went on, I went, I think I really want to teach this. And so I started substituting for my teacher. And then as time went on, I thought, I'd like to teach more. And so it was sort of like an avocation. And what it's done for me is that you get so much from acting that I wanted to give something back. And I thought it would be a nice balance of all this attention that I could get, that I could give some things back. And the particular technique that I studied was very physically therapeutic. So I saw people with movement issues, and then I saw people who were, could really move also, because the particular technique goes into very advanced type stuff. But my specialty was helping people who were in pain or had movement issues. And so I just kept teaching. I started teaching in 1999, and then I would get, rent space and, just a little space here. And then I went, I think I'm going to open a studio. I don't think I'm going to ever be able to act again. I'm too old. They're not going to cast me, and I'm going to open a studio. Well, doing something out of fear is the stupidest thing to do. And if I hadn't have opened the studio, I'd probably still be teaching, because I'd be teaching just here and there. But I was teaching so much, and I had way more expenditure of energy out than I was coming back in. And I had way more expenditure finances going out than were coming in. And it was killing me financially and personally. So I stopped. I stopped everything, and I went. It's not like I'm a bad teacher. I think I'm a good teacher, but I just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should be doing it. And I think I'm really an actor, and I think you can't. Those are two careers. You have to choose one, and I've now chosen acting.
That's really good news for people who've enjoyed you all this time. Are you? Is it the sort of thing now where, in your mind now, you need to just not do any yoga at all? And
no, now I'm more involved than ever for myself.
Oh, for
because
yourself.
I need it to recover. No, I'm very. I study with Linda Lack, and then I also study with someone else with more of the other aspects of yoga, the meditation and the. There's a lot more to yoga than just the physical aspects of it, and so I'm studying Yoga Sutras, and I'm becoming more involved. I'm now way more involved in the philosophical and the psychological things that yoga has to offer than just the movement.
That is very deep, much deeper than I've ever known anything about yoga. But and it's interesting because I know yoga to be, I guess, finally, for those who've done it for years, a growing, emerging phenomenon, like not just in your neck of the woods, but throughout the entire country.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I would imagine it's the fastest growing aspect of, if you would put it in the fitness category, that there is, and there's so many different styles and different videos and programming and stuff like that, all centering around yoga. But the best thing of all is that it's beneficial still for you. So
yes. I did not move away from it. I moved more towards it. And one of the things about yoga is about self-care. And when I had the studio, my self-care went right out the window.
Interesting. The healthiest of endeavors, except for you.
I love it when people say, "Oh, you must be so calm. You're a yoga teacher." And I'm like, you talk to a yoga teacher, they're one of the most stressed out people you're going to meet. if they're trying to make a living solely by doing yoga, or they're running their own studio or whatever, there's a lot of stress involved. It takes a tremendous teacher to be able to really take care of themselves and which is the whole point, and teach at the same time. It's hard. It's really hard.
Gotcha. Well, hey, it was something that you endeavored to do, and well, I mean, the important thing is that, if anything, the experience seems to have refocused you on what your true.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I am grateful. I am super grateful. Yeah, I am. I can't tell you how much more focused I am, and you can tell. You know, how long did it take you to get me to do this?
Yes.
It's because I refocused. I wasn't. I was like, I don't want to. And then all of a sudden, I was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to do the interview. I want to do the interview now.
Good timing for me.
Yeah, I am an actor. I'm not a yoga teacher. I am an actor. Let's do this interview.
Great. So what do you have, what's next on the agenda for you then?
What's coming up? I did a bunch of movies and none of them have come out yet. There's like 4 of them, and a couple of them are scary, and one of them is like an art. 2 of them, one's a comedy, one's comedy and heartfelt, and another is just a devastating piece. One's called Undiscovered Girl, and that's the devastating piece. Okay. One is called And Tails and Heads We Do, and that's funny but heartfelt. And one is called The Last Light, and that's very scary. And another one is called Not Safe for Work, and I don't know what happened to that. That's very scary. That's also very scary. And then there's a new show on Showtime. It's not up yet, but called Masters of Sex. And I did an episode of that, and that was really fun. I think that show's going to be awesome.
That's
I had a scene with Allison and Janie, and oh God, she's awesome. She's just awesome.
That's great. So busy it sounds like you're actually busier than ever.
Yes, it's better. It's way better. It's better than yes. See what happens when you're actually focused. Yeah, it's better.
So the lesson here, folks, use yoga wisely. You'll be focused.
Yes. Yeah.
Bring too much of it in your life and you're done for. Do not over yoga, people.
Not over yoga.
Yes. Okay, so how can people follow you? Are you out there on the internet in a public way?
Well, I have a website, and people can reach me through that, and it's mollyhagan.com, and sometimes I tweet, but I don't have anything to say. I mean, when they're like, "Oh, you should do this and do that," I'm like, "Yeah, what am I? I turn people on to teachers, or maybe a funny video I saw, or rarely am I political, but sometimes political. But you can reach me that way, and you can find things that I'm sort of doing. But the tweeting thing, I just don't get. I'm like, really? I just am not that interesting. Now, the people who tweet who are funny, who are writers and are funny, I mean, those are the people to follow, because there's something really there, and there's kind of, they're funny. I, by myself, am not funny. If I was a script, I'm funny. I'm not coming up with lines and funny stuff, and I'm just not. Alan Spencer does a lot of tweeting sometimes, and his stuff is just hilarious, But he's a writer, and he's funny, and I wouldn't follow me.
Wow, If that's not a ringing self-endorsement, I don't know what it is. Boy, you may have to bone up a little bit about that whole audition attitude. I wouldn't hire me for this part.
I wouldn't do that. That's yeah. Well, whatever. You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I think you're actually a whole lot more entertaining than you give yourself credit for. And
but in 48 characters, I mean, come on.
That's the challenge. It's like a haiku.
It's a haiku. Is that what you said?
It's sort of like a haiku. Yeah, you have to fit it in.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, folks. Well, if you disagree with Molly and you actually think that she's as entertaining as I do, you could check her out at mollyhagan.com. Hopefully, she's updating all the stuff that she's doing, so you can get a sense for where you can watch her next on TV or on movies or whatever the case may be. You can try to find her on Twitter, but apparently it's pretty pointless. But hey, maybe people, you never know. Maybe at some point she'll have a change of heart. So follow her anyway. And anything else that you want to plug or promote or say to the people?
No, this has been very fun, and you're lovely.
It has. Likewise, I appreciate it. So, all right, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you to everyone who's been checking us out this week. And until next time, we will see you again on Down with the 90s. Thanks.